So, casting down another vain imagination, they say the 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 black moon, that's the moon you can't see, is the new moon. Now, let's really look into the scriptures and look into other aspects. This is Matthew chapter 27 verse 45. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. So from noon up until the time that the Messiah would be dead, there's a darkness. What would cause this darkness? An eclipse. And I said eclipse for a reason, because people talk about solar eclipse, lunar eclipse. There's only one type of eclipse. Why? The sun travels higher than the moon, so that it can only happen one day, which is the moon blocking out the sun. Right? Now, let's see what a solar eclipse is according to this society. Now, this is solar eclipse, and as you can see there are images, right? Now let's read what it says. A solar eclipse occurs when an observer passes through the shadow cast by the moon, which fully or partially blocks the sun. This can only happen when the sun, moon and earth are nearly aligned on a straight line in the 3 dimensions. Listen, during a new moon. A solar eclipse occurs during a new moon. What moon is there? Look at the image. It's a black moon. Now, let's go back to the scriptures one more time. Remember, a solar eclipse occurs during a new moon, and this society we know calls the black moon a new moon. Let's go back to the scriptures. I want you guys to get the point. I don't want to bring it out like that. It says, now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land unto the 9th hour. We understand that an eclipse took place here. What date was this? Let's go back to look at the calendar format, because we need to put this into actual actuality, in actual reality. We need to look at it in this way. Now, we understood the Messiah died on the 14th day. You can see where it is right there, the 14th day. An eclipse took place. This is the 14th day of the month, or the 14th day of the moon. If an eclipse only occurs on the black moon, and this happened on the 14th day of the moon, what does that tell you? If the Messiah died on the 14th day, and at that time it was a black moon, then when is the starting of the moon? That means the black moon occurs 14, 15 or 16 days after the full moon. So the full moon is the starting cycle, because everything started with light. Everything started with light. And here's one example. When you were in your mother's womb, you stayed 9 months in darkness, total darkness. Remember, 9 months. The moment you came out and saw the light, why didn't you say you were 9 months and 1 minute or 1 day old or something? It's because subconsciously we know that time begins with the movement of lights. Time begins with the movement of lights, not darkness. Even though darkness was before, the darkness was not acknowledged first. Again, when you were in the womb, you were in darkness, but that 9 months is not acknowledged. You only acknowledge your counting when you saw the light. That's the beginning of it. So it's the same thing with the moon. It starts with light, and as it goes into darkness and then comes back again. It renews itself. That's what it means, new moon. It renews itself. So the 14th day of the moon was a black moon. So how can black moon be the biblical new moon and be the 14th day at the same time? How can it be the first and be the 14th at the same time? The black moon is not the new moon. It's not. And back to the image. Back to the image. Let's look at the image one more time of a solar eclipse. Observe the image. If the sun was there, if the sun is there and the moon blots it out, right? If the moon was a full moon, say for example the black moon is the new moon. If this eclipse happened on the full moon, because we know 14 days from the black moon is the fully bright moon, right? What would happen on earth? Would it be darkness? No. Once the sun goes out, the moon would be given its light. So if the eclipse should take place on a full moon, if the eclipse should take place on a full moon, it would not be darkness over the land because the moon would be given its light. The reason why it says, let me read it again. This can only means no exception, only happen when the sun, moon, and earth are nearly aligned on a straight line in 3 dimensions during a new moon. During, that means it only happens on black moon. And the black moon is not the biblical new moon. That's the reason why the 14th day, all of these things happened. Why? Let's look at it spiritually. Who was the light of this world? The Messiah. What happened on the 14th day? Darkness took over. The Messiah was physically dead from the earth, right? Meaning our light was blotted out of this earth. What was happening with the sun? The light was blotted out by darkness. The Roman empires, they were darkness, they were evil, they were wicked. And that's symbolic, that's the representation of the sun and the moon. That was going on. It was the same thing with the death of the Messiah, with the Greco-Roman Empire, the Roman Empire. It's the same thing. Whatever happens above, it's the same as below. Everything in the heavens is a representation of what goes on the earth. You see, we study all these books, we go through all these colleges that has nothing to do with the Bible. The scripture said, observe. Why you need to observe? Observe the heavens. Do we go outside and look at the sun, the moon, and the stars to see what happens? To see how they react, see what happens on earth at the same time? Everything in the heavens move, every single thing. And also when you look at this, if the earth was spinning, how would that cause the sun and the moon to eclipse? And if the sun and the moon is not moving, how would they get into an eclipse position? You tilt the earth. That's crazy, man. Wake up, Israel. Alright, so we get that part out of the way. So we understand that the 14th day is always a black moon. It's always a black moon. And let's look at the calendar, Roman calendar, and the moon phases. Let me go here. All right, let's look at this. I'm going to go where the year begins. February 19 is our new moon, new year, right? Now look at the phases. It's full moon. Now half moon is 7 days after, right? Now black moon is going to be 14 days after, and that's always the case. The black moon is 14 days after the full moon, right? It's 14 days after, and that's always a cycle. Full moon, half moon, black moon, another half moon, and then the cycle continues. It's always the same way. Now, how do we know that February 19 is the starting of the year? Our year. All right. When you have February 19 would be day 1, right? March 4 would be what? March 4 would be the Passover. What happens right after the Passover? Daylight saving. That lets you know the seasons change and it's back into spring again, because spring is the beginning of New Year. You see, it does not go by the months that the Greco-Roman Empire uses. It goes by the moon. So whichever moon falls in that season of spring, that is going to be the beginning of months.